quaffing expert on a tour of French vineyards. Oz and James's big wine adventure.
Luscious, creamy textures, mouth-watering flavours, intoxicating...
Oh, for God's sake, man, shut up. Now, I enjoy a glass of wine, but like most of us, I know next to nothing about it. So, it's time to learn, and that's why I've been invited on a wine tour of France by this bloke.
Left here, right, sorry, right.
He's a wine expert.
What's the first thing that comes into your mind about that wine? Fruit.
My mission is to open James's eyes to the magical world of French wine.
My mission is to have a drink, and I don't give a pig's fart for the woody high notes.
Oh.
Every week I'll put James's newfound knowledge to the test.
Definite bonfire in there. I'll try not to embarrass him. Will he do the same for me? You touched my buttocks.
All this, plus everything you ever wanted to know about wine but were too afraid to ask.
If women drink mature Chardonnay, their neck flushes, their pupils dilate, and their nipples go erect.
Chablis Premier Cru Montmain.
Oz Clarke, wine critic, wine writer, wine ponce.
It's all wrapped around with this lovely, fat, creamy, nutty quality. James May, petrolhead, beer drinker, utter scruff. Street.
It's not really a very promising pairing. So, for our holiday, I bought this 1989 V12 Jaguar XJS. I rather hoped it would do the decent old Jag thing and break down in Kent, so I could just go home again. But no, I'm stuck with the wine ponce for a month.
I'm going to try and enthuse him about the people, the places, and the fabulous flavours of the wines of France.
To be honest, I'm quite keen to learn, but about wine, not wine bullshit. In my mind, I want to be holding an imaginary £10 and I want to know what to spend it on without being intimidated by all that peripheral, pretentious nonsense.
I'm so looking forward to driving up to these magnificent chateaux, and we're going to say to the guys, show us these magical 2005. Thrill us with those flavours.
I think Oz will actually turn out to be quite an annoying man.
Burgundy, Beaujolais, Bordeaux.
He tends to like to talk about drink, whereas I like to drink. If, in the first 3 days, I decide he's the most irritating man I've ever met, what am I going to do? I mean, what will I do? Get drunk, I suppose.
France is the most famous wine country in the world, but unfortunately for James, it's also the most complicated. For instance, the French like to describe their wines by where they come from, not by grape variety. So, regions are important. I'll be taking James through some of the best-known ones, sampling cheap and not-so-cheap wines as we go. And we're starting in the most famous and most expensive region, Bordeaux. We've got 2 days to get there, so time for James to learn a few basics, starting with how to describe the way wines taste and smell.
First thing up. What is that?
Well, it's a peach, but
It's a peach.
I can see it's a peach.
Yes, all right then, but try and remember the smell, okay? But you will find wines that smell of peaches.
But I know what a peach smells like.
You know what a peach smells like. But when you've got a glass of wine in front of you, you won't be thinking like that unless you've remembered that smell. If you remember that smell and use your sense of smell, not just vague memories, you will be able to find it in wine.
I've logged the peach smell.
Log the peach smell.
Do I actually need to know this to know which wine I like?
Yes,
though?
you will, because otherwise you're never going to get to the basis of wine if you don't start caring about how they smell and how they taste.
Oh, God. I've brought something along here. He doesn't know about this yet, but it's a whistle that came out of a Christmas cracker, and I'm going to call it the oscillator or something. I'm going to blow that when he starts, you know, talking rubbish.
Look at this.
Cow poo.
Kneel down. Kneel down.
Smell it.
It smells unequivocally of cow poo.
The French call it ça pue de merde, which means it smells of cow pat. That's exactly what it means. And it means rustic, old-fashioned French wines.
I know what
What
cow
is
poo
that?
smells like. That's
You
my
don't-
oscillator. That means you're talking rubbish. I
Yeah,
know
it
what...
deafened me.
I know what cow poo smells like. I can smell it from here, and I don't want a wine that tastes of that. So that's
James, honestly, you've often heard people say about a French wine, oh, it's very rustic. They start saying, oh, it's got a lovely farmyardy quality. What they basically mean is it's been badly made, and millions of wines are badly made, and it smells of cowpats.
So we've established that any wine that smells of cow's excrement is bad.
Yeah.
Easy. This is brilliant. This is easy.
Well, I'm glad you think so, mate, because in a few days' time I'll be putting your knowledge to the test. But first, a well-earned drink.
Thank God.
Oh, you're going to have to learn how to taste wine properly, okay? So let's start right at the beginning. Firstly, 3 things. Don't put it down. So look at it.
I've looked at the wine.
Right, second thing, shove your nose in. Like that, and I want you to get first impressions. What's the first thing that comes into your mind about that wine?
Fruit.
Don't try to take the piss or concentrate, okay? Take it slightly seriously.
Okay, but
This is what you do.
sorry. Okay, I'll do it
You
again.
didn't ask me about it.
But what's
You
that?
didn't ask me what I was doing.
No, but you sort
What I
of
was
chew
doing-
it. You were
Yeah, the
chewing
whole
it.
point is if you get wine in your mouth and then you mix it with oxygen, by doing that, you massively improve the flavour.
Sort of whiny.
A bit frustrating, really. I like having a laugh, and I like having a laugh with James, and he obviously likes having a laugh, but if I can't get him to think for a second or two, I mean, he's never going to get anywhere.
And if he uses that whistle on me again, I'm going to shove it up his... Ah, look, Bordeaux, the place where I first got interested in wine. Good Bordeaux is the benchmark for red wine throughout the world. At their very best, they produce mouth-watering flavours of blackcurrant and plum, which literally leap out of the glass. Unfortunately, most cheap Bordeaux is rubbish. Generally, a fiver will get you damn all. Between 10 and 20 quid and you might be okay. But to be on the safe side, I'm going to go over 100 quid to give James the best drink of his life.
Cheapskate.
Bordeaux, I think, probably is the most famous red wine area in the world because of trade and because of money. And it's because it's been a triangle of trade between North America.
None of that actually helps me appreciate the flavour, though. I can understand why it's important, but what is... Bordeaux is a region of France. Well, it's a city in France. Yes?
Am I going to get a lot of this?
Yes.
I think I am, aren't I?
Well...
Bordeaux is a region in France,
That's
yes.
enough history, Ed.
Yeah, it's good.
Interesting, but I just want to... So
Okay.
I'm prepared for this.
Bordeaux then grows particular grape varieties.
What are those grapes?
The main grape varieties we're going to find are the Cabernet grape, Cabernet Sauvignon is its full name, and the other grape is the Merlot grape.
Excellent. This is what we'll call a wine fact.
Our first stop is to visit one of Bordeaux's most distinguished winemakers, and for that, I've told that whistle-wielding scruff to smarten up a bit.
What's with the headmaster's uniform?
It's Helmut Lang, actually. Not so you'd know it.
Oh, dear. Hey, do you get that smell there? Smell? Cut grass. Good smell. Here, there's a smell of cut grass.
The awfully grand Chateau Pichon Longueville Comtesse de la Lande is in the Medoc area of Bordeaux, north of the city. Generally, the Bordeauxs made up here have an appetising, bitter edge to them. If that's your thing, look for words like Pauillac or Haute Medoc on the label.
Hey, wine fact.
We're here to meet Chatelaine, grande dame and winemaker Madame May Eliane de Lancassang.
Did you make an appointment, or are we just...
I thought we were supposed to be here 20 minutes ago, but look, she's a grande dame. I mean, we can't exactly say, excuse me. hey, you know,
No,
let's
but, sorry, what I mean is you have arranged with her that we're coming. She doesn't think we've turned up to sell her some cable TV or anything.
I think she thinks that we've turned up to try and have a nice lunch with her. Although when she sees you, she may actually change her mind. She may, of course.
Well, come on, it's not that bad.
Well, look.
That's fashionable, apparently.
It may be fashionable in the sort of King's Road in London. I doubt if it's fashionable in a smart chateau like this in Bordeaux.
All the toffs are scruffy and decrepit, we know that.
Not in Bordeaux, they're not.
I bet she comes out and she's got her slippers on and an old gown. Bonjour, madame. Je m'appelle James.
Bonjour James.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, madame. Je m'appelle Oz.
Bien, nous sommes déjà rencontrés, non?
Oui, bien sûr.
Oui,
bien
voilà.
sûr.
Bonjour. Bonjour tout le monde.
Madame's premier red is the lush, scented Chateau Pichon Longueville Comtesse de Lalande. But these smart chateaux do have second wines, not so flash, but far cheaper. Madame's is called Reserve de la Comtesse. At over 20 quid, it's still expensive, but it's nothing compared to these historic vintages down here. Altogether, this stuff's worth millions.
Well, I'm sure it's very good then. I'll have one. This'll do. So this is, for example, I've pulled out of there, this is a 1940.
Yes.
You could have been picking this grape
Of
at
course.
the moment when Robert
Yeah.
Stamford Tuck was downing a Heinkel 111 over the Channel in his Hawker Hurricane, which is a nice thought.
Yeah.
It should almost be drunk to celebrate it.
That was the Paris Commune, wasn't
Yeah.
it? When they were all
Commune.
sitting eating
And the end,
rats.
the end of Napoleon III. So that is 1870 of Mouton Rothschild. Here you
I now have absolutely no idea what those two are on about. They're whiffling, but no suggestion whatsoever that we're going to drink any of it. We're looking at it. We're looking at old wine. Look at the old wine. God in heaven.
This is a 1937. In 2007, there will be people 70 years old with lots of money for whom they would pay £1,000 for that.
Oh yeah.
£1,000.
£1,000 for that bottle.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Would that be any good?
It might be fantastic.
But you don't know.
The point is, funnily enough, whether this bottle is good or not won't affect its value very much to sell it. People will buy the bottle just because of the label.
They won't drink it.
They
will
might
buy
not drink it. They might never drink it.
This is going back to what I say about talking about
They could
wine.
keep it and bring all their friends to see it.
To look at it.
Each time they come for dinner, they bring their friend in.
I can't.
To look.
The
Just
idea
to
that
look.
you ring up your mates and say, "Do you want to come round and look at a bottle of wine?" That's preposterous.
Well, and here's a glass of Chilean Merlot while you look at it.
Yeah, if I did that, I'd get my face punched.
Delicious, this. It's got a beautiful, warm kind of smell, James, which I'm sure you would appreciate.
Funny, but since, as Oz is well aware, I'll have to drive after lunch, I'm on water.
James and I are involved in a challenge here to teach James about the way you describe wines, the way you describe flavours and smells. Now, how do you approach that?
Working on a creation of a new vintage is exactly like leading a string quartet. And the alto could be the Cabernet Franc, and the second violin could be the Merlot. I think we create something like a work of art. A wine is like a person. It asks you to discover the personality. How is he? What is his story? Is he deep, strong, elegant? Then comes the nose. So that even if you don't drink wine, you can already have the pleasure of the eyes and of the nose. And that is a great part of discovering a wine.
Great vintage. Today's, I think. Now, what exactly was the point of that visit?
But James, surely, you must be able to get something out of the history of all this.
The history is fascinating.
Well, then
But it's not-
be positive about it. We're going to get
didn't
to all
get
the
a
nuts
drink.
and bolts of it. That is a problem, and I'm sorry about that. The whole problem is that, if you've got to drive the car, you can't drink. So that's just a given. We'll sort it out as we go along, and we'll all take our turn and everything.
Well, I think that's enough learning for today. Time to get our heads down.
There's a little stream at the bottom here. There's something on the bridge here. There's a stream at the bottom.
We're headed to the place where I spent my very first night in Bordeaux.
So take that little track along there. That was it. I remember. We were right next to a bank of vines.
The year was 1971. The grapes were ripe, And so was my travelling companion, a wonderful girl called Sarah.
This is it, James. This is where me and Sarah pitched our tent. Should we put it on the exact spot?
No,
Why?
because I don't want to be in the exact spot where you and Sarah Montague Wellington did it. I can't believe she actually wanted to have sex with a man who was this incompetent at putting a tent up. How can she possibly have found him appealing? Oz, that's the bag it came in you're looking at there. Can you actually get into this wine tasting and writing lark in the first place?
Wine I got into because I wanted to meet girls. I went up to university with no money. I discovered there was this wine tasting society for £2 a term. It was a university society. You could get 4 wine tastings and you could take a guest. So I just thought, 4 wine tastings a term, £2, that's 50p a go. And I just thought, that's 50p a date. And then they started this English wine tasting team. So I went down and auditioned and got into the team.
You tasted wine for England?
I tasted wine for England, yeah.
Oh no. There's water coming through. It's bad. I found a pound.
It'd be mine.
Yeah, probably. This was the worst idea you've ever had.
You know, overnight I've learnt that James is quite a sensitive soul, with a peculiar penchant for poetry, especially Omar Khayyam.
Dreaming when dawn's left hand was in the sky, I heard a voice within the tavern cry, "Come, my little ones, and fill the cup, before life's liquor in its cup be dry. Now off."
He doesn't think he snores, he snores. He does, I can tell you. I heard him at least 100 times last night.
I'm getting freshly watered meadow with an acidic finish.
Ah, yes, wine smells. Remember, James has got a test coming up.
Smell that. You don't trust me, do you?
It smells like a stinging nettle.
Have you ever actually gone and smelt one before? Bash it. Ow!
No, I haven't, to be honest.
God, it goes straight through your... Oh, but that smell, that is one of the great, great smells.
Yeah. Hang on. A badly tuned diesel.
Now, we just had a rough night, so I've decided to give us both a little treat. South of the city is Chateau Smith Haute Lafitte. Their dry white has wonderful flavours of nectarines, peaches and coffee beans. It's pricey, though there are similar whites in the area for under a tenner, such as Chateau Tour-Léognan. But here, set amid the vines, is something even more sensuous than a glass of wine. A spa that uses grapes for soothing treatments.
She's actually cut a grape in half and is wiping it on my face.
They reckon that the grape and the grape skins and the grape pips are some of the healthiest things for mankind that there are.
So, forgive me for dragging this back to reality, Oz, but how does this help with my education? So far what I'm learning is to be able to go back to England and say, Oz Clarke is a nutcase. He made me lie on a bed while someone rubbed grapes in my face. That's not very good advice to someone who wants to know what to have with their roast beef on a Sunday.
This is about the texture of wine. Now, this is a slightly extreme way of saying, feel the texture of that lovely sort of gelatinous flesh being rubbed all over your face. Just feel it, enjoy it.
I mean, it's not an unpleasant sensation, I'll grant you that, but I'm just slightly flabbergasted at the extremes to which you will go to immerse me in the culture of the grape without actually letting me have a bloody drink.
OK, grapes on the face I can take, but this, a jacuzzi filled with grape extract. That strikes me as
Oh, God, no. Oh, God. Oh, that's disgusting. Oh, I can't look at that. Oz Clarke in a paper G-string thing. Oh, I can't look.
Oh, James, stop holding your beer belly in. Relax.
I'm so unhappy, you've got no idea. And what's this got to do with wine?
Well, the grape extract is going to exfoliate us.
You're very close to touching me with your leg.
Well, are you protecting yourself there? Your nether regions?
I'm trying not to touch you in any way. I can't bear touching people. I'm miserable. I'm going to sleep. I hate it.
There's something in James's soul. He seems to be the kind of fellow you give him a treat and he rebels against it. He sort of shrinks away from it.
I don't like physical contact. I don't like public nudity. Oz does seem to like it, and it was giving him immense pleasure watching me squirm, and he did touch me on the buttocks.
Why can't you actually just say, well, there might be something positive going on?
Well, like a glass of wine, for example, which is what I'm here to... What you haven't got, Oz, is I want to try some of that rough... I want to try the stuff that ends up in my local supermarket for £5. I want to see what that's... I want to learn the differences between those. It's a bit like me wanting to show you something about sports cars. I say, OK, Oz, today for you, I want to talk about the language of sports cars. I've got a small Porsche, but I've got an American sports car, which is much bigger and heavier, and I've got an Italian sports car, which isn't actually very fast, but it's light, and it's small, and it's vibrant, and the engine is fizzy, and it gives you a sensation of speed. Now, I want you to really get in touch with this, so first, we'll go and sit in a big barrel full of unleaded. You wouldn't do it.
I tell you, I think I might.
You wouldn't.
Right, back to those all-important wine smells.
Have a smell of that.
Aniseed.
Dill. Very good. Aniseed dill. Yes, absolutely.
Banana grow in banana tree is a blackberry.
It's a blackberry. Now just break it open and smell that.
What wine, so I know to avoid it, smells at the bottom of your shoe?
Beaujolais, good Beaujolais. Smells like gym shoes, really. Running along tarmac in the summer. I hope he's taking some of this in, because pretty soon he's going to have his knowledge put to the test in the company of one of Bordeaux's major players.
I don't think I've learned a huge amount about wine. The thing that I have learned is that Oz has accumulated a truly staggering amount of personal crap in my car. The footwell is full of whatever it is that he wants me to smell and learn about, and he's just left it in the car.
I mean, he's always looking rather old-fashionedly to my side, as though I've made some kind of frightful mess.
He left a banana on my woodwork, and it leaked and got sticky juice in all the switches. I hate him for that. I hate him.
Yeah? Well, at least I don't clean my car with a miniature paintbrush. Talk about anal. Anyway, test time.
It's 8:20, actually. This is still on
Are
English.
you going to change your watch from English time to French time?
No.
You're going to stay with English time all the way?
Well, that is the time. We invented it.
This is the magnificent Chateau Pichon Longueville Baron.
It's not a bad gaff.
These are Pichon's fabulous vineyards. They produce a stonking, deep, scented red wine. It's one of the most sought-after Bordeaux in the world.
James, hello. How do you do? Christian
The bloke in charge is one of the few powerful Englishmen in French wine.
Christian Seeley is a guy who is a really hot shot. He's in charge of 4 or 5 really important properties. He knows a great deal about wine, and I thought it was a good idea to take James along to him and sort of start testing out James with a true expert.
Christian and his charming wife Corinne want us to taste 3 of their finest wines. Can James use what he's learnt to describe them in a half-decent way?
This is a young wine, and so we're just getting those basic flavours at the moment. But those flavours will develop and become more complex and more interesting and change.
Pick it up. It won't hurt you. Shove it up to your nose and give it a good snort.
Now, this is a rich, white Bordeaux to start with, the Chateau Soubirous 2001. Comes in at around £40 a bottle. What I'm hoping for here is words like peaches, apricots, pineapple, and honey.
Wow, I just got it then. It is dope.
Dope?
You know, like model aeroplane dope. It's got a slight, in that it makes your head go a bit.
I don't know what model airplane dope is like.
It's like one of those things that you're supposed to leave a window open if you're using it, because otherwise it makes your brain go a bit squiffy.
Are you supposed to leave a window open when you drink this or not?
Well, I think it works whether the windows are opened or closed, actually.
Okay. Wine number 2 is the famous Pauillac Chateau Pichon Baron. The year 1989. The price £120.
These Grand Cru wines really take a distinctive character from each year, so hopefully you should like them.
Can James do a little better with this one? The correct description is black currant.
Tribord fruit salad.
Qu'est-ce que c'est ça? Comment vous avez dit?
Fruit salad.
Non, avant. Before? Tree?
Tribord is the maker. A sweet maker, like Avelou.
I'm hoping you like Tribord fruit salad.
Oh, I do. I love them. Yeah.
James, I hate you.
And that's the main thing.
Our last wine is the 1988 Pichon Baron, £54 a bottle. It's slightly more acidic, and it should be picking up a slight hint of tobacco. But don't hold your breath.
Bonfire. Definite bonfire in there. And a definite barbecued sausage, or something like that.
Sausage?
A slight sort of pork fat high note or low note. Is that?
So impressed, because it is exactly what I'm getting the point.
Maybe even a little bit of Virginian tobacco.
At last.
Now I'm going to taste it.
He's got something right.
Lovely. A very fine wine.
At the moment, he still has to go on, poncing about the place and throwing out all this, frankly, idiotic and rather ridiculous way of describing and relating to wines. But underneath that, I'm pretty sure that some of this stuff is sinking in.
I'm slightly cross with Oz in a way, because I think he's led me up this path of being a wine connoisseur, but it's not central to what we're trying to achieve here, which is a beginner's guide to basic French wine appreciation. I'm going to have to be a bit tougher with him, I think.
Well, they're not bright, fresh, easygoing flavours. There's a peachy...
Sorry, I should have explained this. It's my oscillator. It's an agreed signal that Oz is being a bit of a wine bore.
I've got 3 boys. Does it work with Oz?
Well, you want the Acme Thunderer. It's a British whistle. It's a traditional, like a referee's whistle. It has a mouthpiece and a circular bit with a P in that rattles, and it was the whistle they used on the Titanic, in which they blew when it was going down. And you can still buy exactly the same whistle. I will send you one, if you like.
Right, I think it's time I set TV's Oz Clarke a test.
This has absolutely nothing to do with wine, but it does have quite a lot to do with the French and the French mentality. This is a 2CV. It was designed before the war, and part of the original design remit was that it had to be able to drive across a ploughed field with a basket of eggs on the passenger seat without breaking any of them. And this was because it was designed as a car for rural people, and it would in fact be driven across fields. So Monsieur Oz, the local French peasant, he has to drive from here and back again across the ploughed furrows without breaking any of the eggs in the basket. We don't actually know if this works, because it's been repeated millions of times, this idea. It may be a myth, I don't know, but we'll find out, because now we'll see if the 2CV breaks the eggs. Go. The gripping. Go on.
With the handbrake.
There's the twisty lever in front of you.
Okay, got it.
See, it's front-wheel drive. It's
makes it very good for driving across ploughed fields. It's got very, very long travel, very soft suspension and very narrow tyres. It really was designed as a, I mean, the polite expression is the people's car, but actually peasant's car is what they meant. Well, look at that. It's not fake, this is absolutely true. That's remarkable. It works. Oh, there's a tiny bit of damage. This earth has sustained a wound, but actually not so bad that you couldn't still make an omelette with it, so none of the others are damaged. It's all true. You can cross a ploughed field in a 2CV with a basket of eggs on the seat. Do you want to try it in the Jag?
I'd love to try it in the Jag.
Come on,
Your Jag? In this field?
Let's not try it in the Jag.
We've now left the grand chateaux of Bordeaux behind to get down and dirty in France's most rugged wine region, Languedoc-Roussillon. Spread like a crescent round the Mediterranean shore and down to the Pyrenees, its steep mountain vineyards yield intense Grenache and Syrah grapes for beefy reds and Muscat grapes for fruity whites. Here, I'll be showing James the winemaking process from start to finish.
I'm going to take you right back to the basics of wine, the nuts and bolts of wine, and I'm going to show you how to make it.
Well, we're going to make some wine.
Oh, we might.
Excellent. And as the cock crew, it looked like a stitch-up. It's 5:15, or 6:15 in local time, and Oz has brought me out into what looks like the middle of nowhere to pick some grapes, which is my idea of a holiday, really, getting up at, you know, oh Christ, 100 hours and doing some horny-handed manual toil of a sort that they did in 1520. Marvellous.
I'm really excited by this. To be out, actually, the beginning of this year's harvest is me and James out on these hills. It's fantastic. These are the steep granite slopes of the Côte de Roussillon, Catalan country. In 2001, South African Tom Lubber and Kiwi Sam Harrop bought a vineyard here, and they started Matassa Wines. Tom and Sam's whole winemaking year revolves around this one event. If these grapes aren't harvested now, they'll over-ripen, and the lads can kiss their £25 per bottle goodbye.
25 quid for some phony colonial plonk. And they're obviously not Frenchmen. For a start, they're working.
To capture the flavours we want to, we have to get out pretty early and pick it quickly. Obviously, Oz and James contributing their part to that speed.
Quite quick, isn't he?
Yes.
Now, I'm just wondering, do I draw the line at violence here, or...?
Will there be wine at the end of this?
They will be drinking.
Right, in that case, I shall work. Ah, someone in the wine world understands me.
Tom says you can just rip them off with your hands, right?
Well,
I've tried it.
some
Failed.
Some of mine did come off with my hands.
For every one of these vines that they're picking, we'll probably get about half a bottle of wine on average. There's a very, very small amount, which is why it's so expensive. Guys, this is not going to cut the mustard. Asses down, heads down, picking, scissors moving, and don't eat the profit. Probably the first time they've done an honest day's work in their lives, so this is obviously not something coming easily to them. I think there's a bead of sweat dripping off the tall one's brow.
Oh, shut up. You are now officially van loading.
You're not going to make wine out here, unfortunately.
Wasn't that fantastic out in the hills there? So savage, so noble, and these bunches of grapes fighting against the elements, but just dragging
all their flavour deep out of those slaty soils.
Grape picking is not a romantic job, and if you're a student and you're thinking, I'll spend the summer picking grapes, don't, because when you're 70 years old, you'll be bent at right angles. It's not worth it.
Like the peasants we've become, we are paid with some homemade wine.
I mean, this isn't fruit so much as stones and herbs.
And I can taste the struggle of the Antipodean.
When was the last time you tasted a struggling
Hey,
Antipodean?
arrête de parler et bois un peu.
Right.
C'est bon. En Catalogne, on boit.
Basically saying in Catalonia, stop talking, get drinking.
No, I
Okay, then,
I
right.
approve.
Okay? Allez.
I approve of
What's
the
the Catalan for
Catalonian.
selling?
Sante.
Got it.
This rocky region produces good sun-baked reds for between £5 and £10. Look out for the words Côte de Roussillon Village on the label. Village generally indicates a region's better wines.
Hey, that's a wine fact.
Tom and Sam like to keep things simple. Matassa's one of the few producers that still squash their grapes by foot.
In you get.
Can I stand on that handle thing?
In you go. It's cast iron, it's not going to break.
No, I thought it might tip up.
Okay. Oh, isn't that nice? The squidgy feel of grapes between the
Okay.
tips.
The feet are in the grapes. I can't believe that the best solution after all these years is a British bloke in his bare feet.
This is the best way.
The reason it is so important to do it this way is because you've been in there. It's a very gentle process, and it's really, all it's doing is getting the juice and not the bitterness, and that's what we're all about, to make smooth, balanced wines.
Come on.
All right. Time to show the wine Neanderthal just how it's done.
Right.
You'll hear this again and again and again. Human contact, doing things with your own hands, makes better wine. I'm going down like a bowl of porridge, and you're just standing on the top there. Stop holding on to yourself.
Well, what's that then?
Well, this is just me keeping myself direct.
You cut all this philosophy out, please, and work. We're sick of it.
And I know they're saying the foot is the perfect instrument for treading grapes, and I'm sure of the things that were available to people in the 12th century, it probably was the best thing. When we're not here, they'll be doing it with a hammer. The wine is extremely nice, though, I have to say. It's excellent.
Get your laughing gear around that, my friend. Pure grape juice.
Pretty nice, actually. Very sweet.
Easy, mate, we don't have much.
The lads only produce 5,000 bottles of white wine a year, and not much more of their red. That's a tiny amount, but it's worth it because you get a real sense of these rugged hills in the flavour. So James has done his first harvest, and now he thinks he knows it all.
The way wine is made is extremely simple. You pick some grapes, you squash them to get the juice out, then you store them in a barrel or something and wait for fermentation to occur and produce alcohol. It's easy.
Well, yes, that's the theory, but don't get too cocky, mate, because later on I'll be putting your winemaking skills to the test. I want James to see how some of my favourite sort of wine is made. We're headed into what the locals call La France Profonde, deep, undiscovered, unspoilt France. Scattered around the village of Sainte-Anne are isolated rural communities hardly seen by outsiders. Generations of farmers have been making wine here for centuries. Not for profit, just for themselves. Luckily, I know a man who can help us get our hands on some.
Your brother? Yeah, my brother lives out here.
Really?
Yeah. He absolutely loves it. And I have to say, his friends are the local small farmers. Those are the people he hangs out with. And if he's going to sit, watching the sun go down, he'll be sitting watching the sun go down with a tumbler of red that his neighbour has actually made in his cowshed.
Is that your brother?
That's my bro.
He looks like you.
My bro.
Bonjour, Monsieur Clark Senior. Sir.
Nice to see you.
And you.
How are you?
This is très rustique.
We ought to go up to Guy because they've got the cochon, which we're going to convert into supper.
What do you mean? A cochon?
Cochon pig. They've got a hard pig, which we're going to do already for the supper.
You killed a pig?
No, the abattoir kindly did it for us.
Dead pigs. Can you make wine out of those? Unsuspecting, I set out across the wasteland.
Now, these guys really do make red wines as rustic as you can get. But we won't be getting a mouthful just yet, because around here, if there's some work to be done, you're expected to roll up your sleeves and help. That's help, James.
Oz has become French. It's just turned into a Frenchman. In a minute, he will go, ooh la 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 about a piece of pork.
That's a fantastic bit of meat. Is that the sausage?
The sausage thing is marvellous, and they're a fantastic bunch of gnarly old Frenchmen, but I want to drink their wine. It must seem as if I'm being really miserable about all this, but I'm not trying to wind Oz up or be horrible to him. I just know, from what I've learned about him already, that left to his own devices, he gets so carried away with this.
Is that for sausage or is that for cooking?
And I've got to try and hammer him down and get something useful out of him, otherwise I'm going to go home having had a nice holiday but not learned anything, and I'll be back in the pub drinking bitter. I haven't learned anything about wine today. I'm still completely baffled about wine.
Yeah, but all right, just give us a break, because give us a couple of minutes, because what happens in country areas like this, everyone does the work, and then they all break out the bottles of wine, and they have the wine that has been made absolutely here. You know,
okay.
This is the whole point. The local pig killed by the local people, and then they pick the local wine.
We haven't got this right yet, have we? I'm going to my local supermarket or off-licence, and I want to buy a bottle of French wine, and I want to buy a nice one. You're
James,
not...
I'm trying to give you some idea about the different cultures in the French world, which is full of wine, and you're resisting getting anywhere near the cultures because you're obsessed about trying to get a £4.99 bottle of red wine in a bloody high street in England. We're just chopping up bits of pork which the lads are going to eat, and then they're going to drink something which is made out in his back shed.
Can we go to the shed?
Yes, I'm sure. When we've done a bit of work, we can actually earn a bit of shed.
I have finally made him a bit cross. That's quite an achievement, isn't it? Bravo. Bravo, Monsieur Oz.
Excusez-moi. Excusez-moi. Il est anglais.
I probably am being a bit horrible to Oz, and most of the time he laughs it off, but now he's a bit worried because he's, you know, I'm being a bit of a bad ambassador for him, and he's with his family, so fair enough. I'll be nice for the rest of the day. May I have the honour of turning the handle? Oui. Say arrête when you want me to stop.
OK, now that James has finally done some work, we can taste some wine. This is Le Vrai home brew. The farmers' families have always made it in barrels and vats like these. They don't sell it, it's for family, friends, and, well, you've got to have something to drink with your lunch.
Oh, this is modern. May I? Qu'est-ce que c'est? Du vin. Du vin, oh. Wow.
René's grapes will be brought in here. He'll crush them.
Yep.
He'll shove them into that vat there, and then they will stew together for a week or two, because red wines are made by letting the skins stew with the juice. The actual juice of a black grape has got no colour at all.
So the skins make it red?
The skins make it red.
Right,
okay?
that's a fact.
That's
good.
a fact.
It's a wine
like
fact,
that.
yes. Quiet, please, everybody. Le vin rustique de France.
De Gers.
De Gers.
Gers.
Cheers, monsieur, and monsieur, and monsieur, and monsieur. Here we go. That's not bad, actually.
I think it's smashing.
That's really,
but
au naturel and fruity and it's just wine. It's like grape drink. It's très bon, monsieur. Merci,
Très bon,
monsieur
oui.
Guy.
Très bon. But you see that?
I'll have a bucket of that. This is what I like. It's rustic, it's honest, it's decent, it's for proper men who are in the resistance, and you drink it on your farm, and it's fantastic.
I hope he's been paying a bit of attention instead of lardy-dying about the place, because actually later on we're going to get him to make some wine. Simple as that. We're going to give him some grapes and say, James, make some wine.
It isn't rocket science, it's a drink. Have I got to drive the car this afternoon?
No, you don't.
Smashing.
Oh, we haven't told you. You don't have to drive the car this afternoon.
No, it's worse. I have to put a tent up.
This is the really tricky one. Is it in right?
Better?
Yeah.
Hey.
There you go.
There's a bloody great stone underneath.
It's been an interesting few days. We've helped with the harvest, fallen out, we've made up, and James has even learnt a few things about winemaking. Hopefully. Now all I want is to enjoy a quiet pint with my big bro.
I can go on and be poncy about wine for hours. Then suddenly you get to a place like this and you just think, whatever glass is in your hand is the glass you're going to have.
I know I may not have given the impression all the time, but I am enjoying this trip immensely. It's fabulously good fun. Oz is great company.
Cheers, Johnny. Well, thanks for an absolutely smashing day.
I'm actually learning a surprising amount about wine. I keep surprising myself, in fact. I've turned into a wine ponce, look. I'm doing this. I wasn't even thinking about it.
The trouble is,
I'm oxygenating it. I've already been infected.
You know, the best thing about this road trip is the opportunity to find out the most unexpected things.
I actually specialised in the harpsichord when I was at university.
You specialised in what?
The harpsichord. I was a harpsichord player. I played lots of Francois Couperin-Legrand, and I played lots of Bach and Scarlatti, and lots of stuff from the Fitzwilliam Virginal book.
I mean, what I just find myself thinking, there's all these heavy blokes sort of covered in petrol and grease, and then there's you talking about playing the virginal and the harpsichord. I'm amazed that they accept you into their rather murky brotherhood.
I'm not sure they do, on the whole. When you were on Food and Drink, and you were with that woman who dressed up as a S&M woman, what was her name?
JG. The gorgeous JG, my blonde bombshell, Gilly Goulden.
Gilly Goulden.
Yeah, smasher she is. She used to put a hand over my mouth when I was trying to say things. She'd roundly, endlessly treat me like some frightful henpecked husband. My mother used to go bananas saying, "Oh, Jesus, you know, how can you let that girl treat you like that?" Did that sound like Pakistani or Welsh?
I didn't know, it sounded quite Irish, actually.
No, that was my mother.
Anyway, you don't need to spend much more than a fiver to get a taste of Languedoc-Roussillon. Herb-scented, chunky reds from Corbière and Fitou are smashing value, and so are the sharp, fruity whites from Côte de Gascogne and Gers. Over the past few days, I've been trying to show James how wine is made. Has any of it sunk in? Let's find out.
Good luck.
I've challenged him to make some of his own.
These are all the same, these grapes.
Yes, they're all the same.
So the first thing I have to do is put the grapes in this bucket thing and squash them somehow. I'm working on this attractive mural of the surrounding area, which tells you, how far away things are and so on. It's the ideal working environment for the amateur vintner. Oz has set this so that he can go off and ponce around looking at chateaux. He thinks I'll make a complete cock-up of this and I'll be here for days, but he's wrong.
I mean, I can see why they call him Captain Slow. He seems to be taking the berries off one by one. I mean, I would take a bunch and go like that. Not James.
Oz is interacting with the locals now, which is what he's very good at.
Et nous avons un petit qui veut faire vin.
I have no option but to do the traditional thing and tread on them, which I'm not very keen on, to be honest, because I think it might contaminate it. But anyway. Absolutely nothing is happening.
This is rubbish. I need some technology. Oz, could you ask Madame if she has something like a potato masher that I could borrow for an hour or so?
Well, she's not got a potato masher, but this being rural France, she does have a lovely old hoe.
Nous avons acheté des raisins. Non, oui.
Pardon.
Avec les pieds.
May I...
Non, c'est tout sale, ça. Oh, il faut le laver. Alors, si vous voulez faire le vaccin,
Is that an heirloom?
je vais le laver.
No, she says you've got to go and wash it first.
Oh,
Je vais
no.
vous le laver, moi, ça. Je ne vais pas vous faire le vaccin, non.
It's fine. This will give it some
C'est
good
tout sale.
rusty high notes.
Je vais le sortir, je vais le laver.
Can you hold that or not? You see? Push it up further.
Yeah, there's...
Okay.
Get those bits.
Hold it firmly. I'm going to push that hard. Okay, look at all that juice pouring out.
I've bought some yeast and I've nicked some sugar from a roadside cafe. Yeast and the sugar will work together and this will turn what is at the moment grape juice into wine. Look at that frothing up. That's already making alcohol.
We don't actually know. She's asking whether we've succeeded.
Yeah, I'm enjoying myself. This is au naturel. We will send you a case when it's matured.
Il a dit il vous remettre une caisse quand c'est prêt à boire.
Non, je ne veux pas, moi. Je n'aime pas le vin.
She says she'd rather not.
Non.
Voilà,
Voilà.
le vin rouge.
Rouge. Pas trop rouge.
Sort of rouge. Honestly, they'll be queuing up for this at Ramsay's big Ponzi restaurant.
Well, that's assuming it's any good, and we'll soon find out, because you'll be testing it out on the locals. It won't be ready for a while, so in the meantime, there's a chance to take part in one of France's more bizarre wine-making traditions.
So it's a competition for seeing who can pull corks out of bottles.
Fastest.
What happens to all the wine?
Hopefully, if you're good, you drink tons of it. These are the villagers of San Sardos. They're out celebrating their grape harvest, and they want to find this year's cork-pulling champion.
I like the idea of a drinkers' Olympics. That's excellent. Cork-pulling Olympics.
That's what you're here for.
Are we a team?
Oh, God, I hope not.
So each bottle you open gets...
Uncharacteristically for the French, the organisers like to ensure le fair play, and they have an extensive rule book which they rigorously apply. And you open it according to what the French regulations say is the accepted way of opening it.
Which is bound to be
Is
pretty
that clear?
complicated.
It's very complicated, and certainly it won't be the easiest way.
Excellent. This is a great opportunity for annoying lots of locals. Here are some local former resistance leaders representing France.
Where do you come from, please?
London.
London, la capitale.
And the British Expeditionary Force is fielding Clark and May. Oh, oui, London, la capitale.
L'Angleterre, la capitale, avec le joli accent anglais. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! Allez, c'est parti. Go! Allez!
Right, 2 minutes to open as many bottles as possible.
Come last.
Ow! You just punched me in the face. I've done what?
Cannot come last.
1 minute!
1 minute.
1 minute, 1 minute encore. C'est même fait.
My wrist is knackered.
No, it is knackering.
10, 9, 7, 6, 6.
No, too fast, too fast.
1, 2, 1, stop! Il vient fort, s'il vous plaît! 1, 2, 3.
No, don't count it twice.
Bien, 8 bouteilles! Bien, hein?
That's 8 each for Oz and James. So how does that compare with René, René and René?
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bouteilles!
Oh dear, we lost. Time for a drink. But then we discover that the French have been cheating. Yeah, this is interesting.
It's water. That is an absolute disgrace. I was only doing this to get a drink.
The results of James's winemaking experiment have been swilling around in the boot of the Jag for 5 days. That's enough time for the yeast to have caused his grape juice to ferment and make alcohol. Technically, he's now made a wine. But is it any good? We've come to this delightful market town to find out.
The people of France believe that they have a very, very sensitive, educated palate when it comes to their own wines. But have they? Let's find out. Here we have 3 wine glasses on a table, and I have 3 wines. I have a very expensive French wine.
It's a 50-quid Vougeot from Burgundy.
I have a very cheap French wine from a supermarket, the sort of stuff you buy straight from the vat.
It's a Gamay from Ardèche, costs around £3.50.
And I have the Domaine de Bout de Jaguar.
I wouldn't want to put a price on this one.
Mine's in the middle and not recommended by wine connoisseur TV's Oz Clark.
I can smell this wine of yours downwind. I mean, you could make vinaigrette out of this.
That's sour grapes. Let's see what the experts think. Bonjour, madame. Le vin rouge, please. Each person will taste all 3 wines, then reveal the one they like best. Okay, monsieur? So, which is France's favourite wine? The expensive one on the left, the cheap one on the right, or the English one in the middle? Monsieur, votre favor.
Expensive. 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 Expensive again.
That's number 1, that's number 2, that's number 3 for me.
You're Dutch.
Yes.
You're disqualified. Votre favor.
Expensive. Expensive.
Maybe Oz has a point.
Expensive. Oh, his missus likes the cheap one. Nice.
This, look. You can't even see through it. I mean, it's as though you've actually made this with a mixture of washing up water and Ribena.
Expensive. 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 Expensive.
Oh, yes!
What?
Merci, merci bien, monsieur. Magnifique. Let's just see that one again. I appreciate that it's difficult for you because I'm undoing your life's work, but he says Chateau Jaguar is best. It just goes to show that all you have to do is crush some grapes in a bucket and stick it in the back of your car for 4 or 5 days, and you've made a perfectly good wine. The rest of it is hype and cans.
Nonsense. All it proves is that there are some French people who know as little about wine and whose palate is as leaden as yours. That's all it should prove.
Rubbish. Find more wine-choosing advice from Oz Woody High Notes Clark at bbc.co.uk/food.
Next time, I teach James how to match wine with food.
That tastes doesn't it? I enhance my reputation as Britain's best driver.
And we celebrate the harvest with a good old-fashioned boys' night out.
I can't listen to any of this. You're getting smashed. And I'm way behind you.